Alright, I am back with a new Destiny 2 video. This is in the wake of a really long live stream about both the Revenant episode to some extent, and then also some new information about what's coming in Frontiers. They did do the whole video breakdown thing, and there was, some news made here and there, kind of an explanation of a lot of the things they've said already. But one really significant new thing they talked about was the new plan for an evolution of armor, which is coming in Frontiers. This is interesting because when they talked about all the stuff that was coming with Frontiers, they talked about, weapons and armor changing, and then they proceeded to talk about weapons for like 5,000 words and did not mention armor at all. So I wondered what was going on with that. They talked about the armor having a tier system, and now we do have some more information about what exactly that is going to mean. And it is probably the biggest change we've seen with armor since the game launched, I would say. I think they've absorbed the feedback about how boring armor is to farm as you're just looking for stat distribution and then the artifice slot. Now it is going to be more than that, and in addition to that, stats are changing to some extent as well. So I'm going to read the thing here about Codename Frontiers. This is like the actual blog they published, Developer Insight Next Generation Armor. This is the only thing they published an actual like text breakdown of, which I think is pretty unique. They didn't really do one for Revenants or the other stuff they talked about with Frontiers, so I figured this is a good one to focus on because, man, going through 50 minutes of stuff, I'll leave that to someone else right now, but I think the armor changes are what kind of got me most excited here, so. All right, welcome to one of many Developer Insight articles for Codename Frontiers. Over the weeks and months to come, we will be covering a lot of different topics about changes coming to Destiny 2 next year with these deeper dives, paving the way for new frontiers. Okay, this deep dive is on future plans for armor. Compared to weapons, armor has been a relatively unexciting reward for a few years now. Yes. In the year ahead, we'll be introducing new properties to armor and changing how stats work to make it easier to change armor around. TLDR, armor will be a more active, interesting part of build crafting. Stats will be reworked to be more impactful, less confusing, and less constraining. Set bonuses will be introduced to give individual armor sets more unique identities and build crafting elements. The problem, in the years since the last major update, Shadowkeep's Armor 2.0, God, I think I just saw something that was 5 years ago, is Shadowkeep now. So armor has not changed in any truly meaningful capacity since then. Armor has settled into a relatively static part of the reward story. Once you have the right stat rolls, there is very little else to look forward to, and the intricate balance of stat values has a lock-in effect that makes it hard to want to swap anything out anyway. For armor to be exciting again, it needs some unique properties, and stats need to be easier to manage without so much need for fine-tuning. The solution: reworked stat mechanics. Stats on armor will be changing in Codename Frontiers in order to make them more player-friendly. The first major change is the mechanics of the stats themselves. Stats effects will no longer be tiered every 10 points. Every point in a stat will provide a benefit. Oh, thank God. This change is intended to reduce the lock-in effects that happens when a fine-tuned combination of stat values makes it feel impossible to switch out of any single armor piece. Yeah, that happens very frequently. Stat effects will be capped at 200, with the range from 101 to 200 providing an additional powerful effect building on the base effect. This change is intended to support deeper investment in a smaller number of stats and spikier stat distributions on armor with fewer secondary dump stats. In addition to the above changes, the distribution of stats will now be changing. Legendary armor will have a stat archetype, which determines the primary and secondary stat types, with the third stat being a free roll. The values of these stats should overall be spikier, leading to fewer points in dump stats. The class slot, Hunter Cloaks, Warlock Bonds, and Titan Marks, will have full stat distribution on par with other slots. Yeah, I figured something had to be changing. If you're going up to 200 now, that seems like you would need more stats in general, but we'll see how far these can actually go. Chesty, the chest armor, amazing. Okay, the result will be a smaller number of unique stats on any piece of armor with larger contribution to these stats, and every stat points providing a benefit. These changes should ultimately make every piece of armor more interesting and easier to evaluate. So here we have strength, intellect, and discipline. They also talked on the stream about how they might just change strength to like melee to be less confusing. Melee, grenade, super, I guess. And then they have primary stats, secondary stats, tertiary stats. Yeah, so I'm a little confused because like where's it says primary stat resilience. Is resilience on here somewhere? Is that the archetype? Okay, I'm a little confused about that. But there you can see the archetype Brawler Armor has extreme melee and close range abilities. So Brawler Armor is going to be strength focused. Again, I'm not sure where resilience, recovery, mobility comes in here. I don't think they mentioned a mobility rework here, so that's something. Yeah, we'll see. New stats. Some stats will be changing with 3 goals in mind. Maybe it is changing. Improve specific weak stats that offer little value. Reduce or eliminate mandatory must-have stats. Overall, improve understandability of stats and their effects. These changes are still under active development, but here are a few examples from work-in-progress designs, which will eventually include most or all of the current stats found on armor. Just as a disclaimer here, I feel like we're going to have to give them some slack because God only knows we are pretty far out from the actual launch of Frontiers, and that's even without any delays. So I do imagine that talking about stuff this early is going to make a lot subject to change. So I don't know if everything they're talking about in this whole era is really fully going to pan out. So just keep that in mind as you read stuff. All right, discipline. From 1 to 100, increased grenade cooldown. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance to gain a bonus grenade charge whenever your grenade becomes available. Stat renamed to grenade. Okay. Strength, same thing. Increasing chance to gain a bonus melee charge whenever your melee becomes available. Renamed to melee. Special ammo. Wait, is that special ammo? From 1 to 100, increases rate at which special ammo bricks drop from final blows. From 101 to 200 provides an increasing chance at a double-sized brick will drop. I don't know, is where's special ammo? Is that intellect? Okay, well, I guess that's not something current. I feel like I'm missing something here, but I don't see that listed anywhere. But that's apparently a thing that's going to happen. Set bonuses. The second major change to armor is the introduction of set bonuses. Think of them like an origin trait for armor. They'll represent the theme of the armor and allow you to reflect that fantasy in the way your build plays. Set bonuses are perks granted when you equip 2 and 4 pieces of the same set. This allows you to either commit to 2 bonuses from the same set or find combinations that fit your unique needs. We're keeping both approaches in mind as they take shape and are excited to see what each Guardian chooses to do with these new tools. Note that there is no bonus at 5 pieces because most builds are expected to include a piece of exotic armor. Yes, thank you, Christ. That is very mandatory. As you'll see, perks will consist of either existing mods or will be newly designed. We've included a few examples below to represent the general direction we'd like that to go. Okay, Tex Mechanica. While shooting from the hip, you have increased movement speed and weapon handling. Effect increases when you score hits. Tex Mechanica perk 2. Tex Mechanica weapons have increased range and accuracy when hip fired. So you can build a build around hip firing Tex Mechanica weapons. That seems okay. If it's like an origin trait for armor, do people build around origin traits in weapons that much? I feel like they don't. Sometimes the effects are amplified by artifact things and stuff, but I don't know. I feel like these need to be pretty pronounced. We'll see. Non-stop aggression. Final blows with freshly reloaded weapons heal you. Well, that's a pretty good one. Damaging a target with a shotgun or fusion rifle increases the damage it takes from those weapons for a short time. That seems way better than the Tex Mechanica one. Jesus. Okay, so that's a really significant one. Demolitions Expert. Direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increases their reload speeds. Yep, I can see that for breech-loaded things. Repeated direct hits with explosive weapons temporarily increase grenade ability damage. That's cool. Okay, so these other ones are cooler than the Tex Mechanica one. Vanguard Operative. Activating your grenade gives you... Oops. I love when my look back at memories are just like Destiny screenshots. Activating your grenade gives you nearby allies damage resistance against combatants. Defeating champions with a finisher generates special ammo for you and your fire team. So that's something that you would have used to had to equip, and now it's like an innate thing. And this is Vanguard Operative, so let's assume that is probably, what you get for doing the Zavala set of armor in the Vanguard playlist or something. So that's interesting. Again, this doesn't sound amazing. I don't know, maybe for Crucible, I'm not sure. But That is a good idea. People have been talking about set bonuses as a potential idea for this for years. I've heard some of my friends have been like, "Oh, this is like Suicide Squad or like Genshin Impact." I'm like, people have been doing set bonuses for a very long time. This is not a new concept in RPGs, and Destiny has sort of like avoided it thus far. They've done these like really lame set bonuses where it's like 5% increased, reputation gain if you equip all these sets and stuff. Like the most significant one is probably the Iron Banner rep gain, but you can even do that with ornaments. So this is a pretty significant change for sure. What happens to my old armor? Old legendary armor will be changed as little as possible. Of course. But because the change to stat mechanics and types are global changes, old armor will have their stat types but not their values changed around. When possible, these changes will be to the most similar stat, but with some stats being fundamentally reworked, this won't be possible. What am I missing with the special ammo stat? I feel like I'm really missing something here, but okay, anyway. What about exotic armor? Updating the exotic armor pursuit is on our roadmap, but won't be part of the initial update that is focused on legendary armor. So to make sure that exotics and their build-defining perks remain a compelling option, we are working out a design that will allow players to update their exotic armor to bring their stat bonuses in line with the changes to legendary armor. Yeah, that's good. The exotic class items introduced in the final shape are a special case, as ever. Even though legendary class items will be gaining full random stats with this update, we don't wish to add additional randomness to the exotic class item chase. Instead, we will be providing a method for players to update their existing exotic class items with additional stats of their choosing to bring them in line with the stat contribution. Well, that's good. More details on the longer term plans for exotic armor coming as we nail them down. My vault is full. They really did, think of the questions everyone was going to ask. I'll give them that. Where am I supposed to store all of this new armor? We know that vault pressure is a real problem for many players, even with the recent increases in vault space. Outside of adding more space, an option. Real solutions that enable long-term storage and more desirable roles are really hard problems. But those are problems we're penciling into our roadmap at or around next year's second expansion, codenamed Behemoth. We'll share more details when we have a clear direction for how we think we can solve this one. This is where everyone says, like, you should just be able to save roles in collections and pull them out. I do think that is a very good idea. It's just that this is one of those, it's technically harder than you think it is, things that I'm sure is very difficult to pull off. So that's where we are here. In terms of like old armor stuff, this is what we're calling soft sunsetting, where you can use your old armor if you want. They're just not going to have any perk bonuses, so you would want to farm up this new armor and probably ditch your old armor, which will also be less important because the whole like triple 100 stat thing is not really going to be as much of a thing anymore, and you don't need, exact 10 scale values and things like that, and you're going up to 200 now. So this is soft setting. This is soft sunsetting. This is sunsetting without just telling you can't use something. We have seen something kind of similar here to that with what they did with actual sunsetting, where they quote unquote, unsunset everything, but those have extremely limited perk pools. They have no origin traits. Like, they are in many ways worse than the new things you can grind. So even though you can use them, most of the time you are probably not going to. Again, Crucible is usually kind of an exception there, but generally speaking, you are motivated to do the new stuff. Armor has been so boring for freaking so many years that I really don't have a problem with this. As long as there are enough interesting sets to grind, I am good with this being a pursuit, because like also the weapons pursuit, you can't only pursue weapons as something. Even Borderlands has you pursuing like shields and class artifacts and things like that, whereas at this point they're right. Like Destiny, you get one or two sets of armor, you wear them for years without essentially any need to change them off, and I don't think that's healthy. I do think this is a lot better in terms of instituting some level of set bonuses. Yes, it's more power creep, but they've needed to do something with armor for a very, very long time. So anything significant that they're changing, I am in support of. Maybe it may not play out perfectly in the end, but I feel like they do have to try something, and this is at least trying something. So I'm excited to try this out. Maybe I'm not super excited to regrind everything, but I get it, and I think it is going to be a worthwhile pursuit. And they're probably hiding some of the best bonuses, for later use. I do wonder, like, are raid sets all going to have like a really unique bonus or dungeon sets or whatever? Like we don't know where these are coming from per se, but I'm wondering how the pools of armor will work and all these different activities now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.